The fragile peace in the Middle East has been shattered by direct U.S. airstrikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. On a Saturday in June 2025, President Donald Trump ordered attacks targeting Iran's most critical nuclear sites, aiming to cripple its nuclear ambitions. This marks a dramatic escalation, moving the U.S.-Iran conflict from covert operations to open warfare. The world now waits anxiously for Iran's response, as the risk of a wider regional war looms. The strikes bypass diplomacy, delivering a clear message. The U.S. is willing to use force to prevent a nuclear-armed Iran. Iran's leaders have vowed retaliation, setting the stage for a perilous new chapter in U.S.-Iran relations. The next moves by both nations will determine if this crisis spirals into a broader conflict or finds a path to de-escalation. The stakes are enormous, not just for the Middle East, but for global stability and energy security. The world holds its breath, awaiting the fallout from this unprecedented confrontation. The U.S. military unleashed over 125 aircraft, including B-2 stealth bombers, in a massive strike on Iran's nuclear sites at Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. Submarines launched Tomahawk missiles, overwhelming Iranian defenses in a coordinated air and sea assault. President Trump declared the mission a success, claiming the sites were obliterated, though independent verification is pending. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu praised the operation, highlighting close U.S.-Israel coordination. The administration's goal set back Iran's nuclear program by years and forced Tehran back to the negotiating table. But a major concern remains: the fate of Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium, which could still enable a rapid nuclear breakout. Intelligence agencies are scrambling to assess whether this material survived the strikes. The world is left to wonder if this show of force will deter Iran or provoke even greater danger. Iran's leaders swiftly condemned the U.S. strikes as an act of war, vowing military retaliation. Tehran has several options: direct missile attacks on U.S. bases, disrupting oil shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, or activating proxy forces across the region. Any Iranian attack risks triggering a dangerous cycle of escalation, threatening U.S. interests and global energy supplies. Iran's asymmetric tactics, using missiles, mines, and regional militias, could inflict serious damage without direct confrontation. Proxy groups like Shiite militias in Iraq and Houthi rebels in Yemen remain potential tools for indirect retaliation. The region is on high alert, bracing for Iran's next move. The world watches, knowing that even a single strike could ignite a much larger conflict. This crisis is the result of decades of U.S.-Iran hostility, dating back to the 1979 Islamic Revolution and the U.S. Embassy hostage crisis. At the heart of the conflict is Iran's nuclear program, which Tehran claims is peaceful, but Washington and its allies suspect is a cover for weapons development. Years of sanctions and suspicion led to the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, which imposed strict limits on Iran's program in exchange for sanctions relief. In 2018, President Trump withdrew from the deal, reimposing sanctions and escalating tensions. Iran responded by ramping up uranium enrichment, dismantling the diplomatic framework that had kept the nuclear issue in check. The collapse of diplomacy set the stage for the current military confrontation. Each side blames the other for the breakdown, but the result is a return to open conflict. The nuclear standoff has never been more dangerous. The world faces a precarious moment as the risk of a full-scale regional war grows. Any Iranian retaliation could trigger devastating escalation, drawing in the U.S., Israel, and other regional powers. Disruption of oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz would send shockwaves through the global economy. In the U.S., fierce debate rages over the wisdom of the strikes. Supporters call it necessary, critics warn it's reckless and dangerous. The future hinges on Iran's next move. Will it escalate or seek a diplomatic off-ramp? The international community hopes for restraint, but prepares for the worst. Decisions made in Washington and Tehran now will shape global security for years to come. The world waits, hoping for peace but fearing the consequences of war.